Babe! What are you doing?
Like that. You got it together? Hello?
I have no choice now. You went in here to help.
Chili.
Put the microphone on. Make sure.
Hello.
Go.
Hello.
All right. Okay. Chill.
You don't like that?
Just chill.
I try to get something on that with you, baby.
Stop.
Did you send out a message? A reminder?
Gotta do this, man. What is that?
What's that?
Boy, I swear. This is my timer.
What the? Really, babe?
I mean, it's showtime. You ready?
I'm ready.
Are you really ready?
Ready.
Alrighty.
Ready.
My screen.
Ready.
Hello, everybody. So our three have to.
Yeah, but we're ready to go in this thing.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Ready to go. Got a few people on here. Let us know who's joining us tonight in the Chizat and where are you joining from, if you don't mind. Let us know. Just speak to us. Let us know who you are and where you're joining from. That would be great. We appreciate that. Let me make sure. And let us know if you can hear us okay. Want to make sure you can hear us okay.
Now that's most important. We really want you to be able to hear us for sure.
Especially my wife. You know, sometimes she'll be kind of quiet. She's so meek and humble, you know. No?
You're trying to be funny, huh? I am meek and humble.
Yeah.
And quiet.
You are.
Introvert.
All right, we got Texas City in the house. Texas City. All right.
Okay. How you
we
doing?
Can hear.
And yes, we can hear.
They can hear.
All right.
Let's see what it is, baby.
Well, last week. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Go ahead, because I'm going to skip right over the introduction.
Yeah. I am James Lee.
And I am Tasha Lee.
And we are here this evening picking up on Marriage Be Hard. This has been a live read for us the past few weeks. We are truly dedicated to marriage and those that want to be married in the kingdom sense. Now, we know everybody don't want a kingdom marriage.
Nah.
But we try to give you the information that is lined up with what the word says. So you'll get nothing more, nothing less from us. So please consider that when you decide you want to be in tune with us, because that's, we want to make sure that no one is offended by anything that we say, because everything that we say you may not agree with, but we don't care. But anywho,
that is not true. I mean, like, it may be a little bit true, but really, we have been married for 23 years. We have been together for longer than that, right? So we know a few things, just a few things, not everything. Let's be clear on that. We don't know everything, but we know a few things.
Yes.
So the things that we have learned along the way, we want to share with you. Little nuggets for your basket. Sometimes you may use it, sometimes you may share it. But either way, it's something out there that can really strengthen
Absolutely.
marriages or those to be married. Now, again, like we said, we're reading Marriage Be Hard by Kevin and Melissa Fredericks. It's 12 conversations to keep you laughing, loving, and learning with your partner, which is something you should always do. You see that alliteration again? Laughing, loving, and learning.
Yeah, I see those. What you did there. I see what you did.
I didn't do it.
A little bit with your boy.
Okay.
All right.
So again, it's been a great read. If you're just joining us, I'm sure the videos are up somewhere that you can listen to us read it. It's been a really great read. Kind of comical, things to learn. You know, we stop and give our little commentary and 2 cents worth of information as well, but really, really great information. So we appreciate you joining us tonight. And we're going to wrap up communication. Communication is pretty long. That's because it's super important, right? Say what you mean what you say, the whole 9 yards. Super important. So we're going to wrap that up just with the last part of communication. Go ahead, honey.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say apologies for last week. There was an actual system issue last week, not just on my part, which I'm not guiltless when it comes to that. But last week it was software, so we just had to skip it. But here we are tonight.
I wanted James to just read this last part when Kevin talks about compromise versus accommodation. I thought that was really important. And then we're going to wrap it up with the relationship check-in, and we're ready to move on.
Ooh. All right. Here's how I can tell the difference between compromise and accommodation. It is a compromise if both sides feel a little salty. No one gets everything they want, but no one has to give up everything. Everyone moves an equal amount. I used to fully believe in keeping score. I grew up playing sports, so the scoreboard was where my bread was buttered. If I went to 4 of Melissa's events, she needed to come to 4 of mine. But I've grown up. Now, on Monday nights, when my cousin comes over to watch The Bachelor, I'm tired, but Melissa wants me to stay up and talk with the ladies. I do it well, offering lots of titillating conversation while I'm practically falling asleep. Melissa knows that this is not a compromise. It's something I do not want to do at all. And she appreciates it that I accommodate because it's important to her. Then I go on and say, I stayed up talking with you and your best friend. Therefore, after she leaves, you have to do something for me before we go to sleep.
He is always trying to
get that butt.
Did he say that, babe, or did you just read that?
No, that's what he said. Early in our marriage, I would have done that, and it would have erased all the good that I did. It would have shown that my heart wasn't in the right place. You have to show up for your spouse without expecting them to repay you in equal amounts. You're not going to get credit every time you accommodate.
Oh, read that one again. One more time. Read that line.
You have to show up for your spouse without expecting them to repay you in equal amounts. You're not going to get credit every time you accommodate. You're not going to get credit every time. That's good.
That's real good.
To go back to the basketball court for a minute, it's kind of like the possession arrow. That is in high school and college because there ain't no possession arrow in the pros. But anywho, good analogy anyway. In a jump ball, the possessions alternate between teams. If you got what you want the last time, I get what I want this time. Even though we don't really suggest keeping score like that, in this case, it's like saying, I recognize and appreciate that you sacrificed for me. The least I can do is sacrifice for you next time. That's
thoughtful.
Very, very. Compromise and accommodation. I like those terms. But we call it a give and receive type of relationship. You give all you got to your spouse, and in turn, you'll end up receiving the things that you want. Because if you're both giving 100%, then you're really kind of trying to outdo each other. So you'll end up getting the benefit of your efforts in giving, not because of you doing it, but because you have a partner in trying to get on the same page with outdoing each other in that space. You're both on the same page with that. So I think that's good. That's definitely good. Relationship check-in.
You want to do it? Or you want me to do it?
You got it. There you go.
You might want to turn the ring off with that one. For the relationship check-in.
Your battery dead.
Is it? All right. Check in about effective communication. Here's what we recommend discussing. Conversation time. Time to bring it up. Let's talk about what's going on.
Yes.
How, what. All right. Is there a specific issue or topic that paralyzes you from communicating effectively with your partner? There's some things I'm not going to talk about it. You're going to be mad. I'm not going to talk about it. She have attitude whenever I bring that up. That's the stuff you need to talk about. Talk about it. Are there places in your relationship where you have built up resentment? Things that you've never communicated, things that you have communicated, but they were never resolved. Okay. What accommodations do you appreciate your partner having made for you? You'll be surprised that they probably do that every day.
Right.
Every day. What is your biggest stumbling block to being honest, transparent, and vulnerable? Ooh, I like that. That's a whole nother video right there.
It is.
What is your biggest stumbling block to being honest, transparent, and vulnerable? I like that. I'm gonna have to put a little.
Sometimes people are afraid to be vulnerable because when they've done it in past times, it's been used against them. And I get that. I get that it can be kind of a scary situation because, hey, I was free with my feelings the last time, and you use it against me. You called me a punk, or you anything along those lines. Held it over my head, whatever it was that I said to you. It's an unfair situation to put your loved one in if they share themselves, they open themselves up to you, and then you're not, honest and free with them. So we challenge you all to being
any
more
questions,
open.
comments, or concerns.
What y'all think about that?
From that part of the read,
being vulnerable and honest and open. Is that a space that we struggle with out there in these streets? What we got? I don't know what you're doing. We're doing
yes.
This? Mm-hmm. All right. So this next section is one that we'll have to caution. We have not read this book ahead of time. We're reading it with you for the first time. So we'll have to caution you that Kevin's Fredericks is he's a comedian. I think I've said that before.
Yes, keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. So
all right.
We can't be responsible for what he say, Pastor.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna try. Well, I think Melissa will be okay. It's really Kevin that I think we have to worry about. But here we go. Sex be hard.
Sex be hard.
Here's something you probably didn't know. You can be a Christian and still have a healthy relationship with sex. Revolutionary, right? Yes, it's true, because God is sex positive.
Amen. Sex positive. In marriage.
Sex was God's idea.
Come on now.
And
preach.
What an idea it was.
Oh, come on.
If you grew up anywhere near the church, that might not be the message you received. In fact, you might have received the opposite message. Sex is the devil's domain, and thus sex is anti-God. As you know, the two of us were raised under heavy influence from the purity movement, which encourages young boys and girls to save themselves for marriage. To be sure, there was some good to this movement, particularly how it told young women they were worth more than their bodies. Even though that message gets a little lost, the idea that you don't have to give your body away to get a man or keep him is a good one. It's valuable for young women to understand that pressure to have sex is not a characteristic of a healthy relationship. Also, we appreciate the notion that God designed sex for marriage and family. And if done the right way, you can have a beautiful family blessed by God. The problem is the message warped into the idea that giving away your virginity, whether you were married or not, meant that you were not pure. And if you were not pure, meaning you weren't a virgin on your wedding day, or your marriage was effectively doomed. By promoting abstinence at any cost, the purity movement became a breeding ground for shame. Young people internalize shame about their bodies and sex, and we've heard from countless people who felt the shame even after they got married. We don't want to indict the whole church experience, but it definitely had an effect on us. In the introduction, we made it pretty clear that we were never properly equipped to enjoy a healthy sex life with our spouses. We subscribe to the idea of purity because of the promises it made to us. But since then, we have had to reconcile that much of what we were promised never came to pass. We were told that the hard work was doing everything correctly before getting married, but we came to find that the real work comes later in our minds and in all the conversations with our spouses that we never knew we needed to have. That's truth right there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
People aren't talking about it.
And I have to echo Melissa's sentiment when it comes to the church talk, right? Because it was more, it wasn't really a talk. It was more just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do it. It was such a negative stigma around it rather than talking about why does my body even desire it before it's time for me to do it, so to speak. It was just a shunning of sorts. And if you found out somebody had done it, I mean, depending on what the age is, certain ages it was like, ooh, I can't believe they did that. Then in some ages, like, man, hey, you know, it was on the other side of the spectrum. Like, oh, you knocked that off? Oh, okay, cool. But it desensitizes it for the husband and the wife experience, because we've said it before. There's no sex like married sex. When you do it the right way with the right person under God's covenant, it just takes it to a completely different level. And you are truly, truly rewarded with that experience, because I think it's because you're doing it the right way, the way it was meant to be done. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. That's just kind of the piece that we wanted to add to Melissa's little deal. She's got another section there. Okay.
On the Love Hour, Dr. Camden Morgante, I'm sure I jacked that up, and I discussed how the purity movement made several promises, some actually declared and others implied to young people. But in this chapter, we're going to focus on three of the biggies. Promise number one: you are significantly more desirable if you're a virgin. The best example of this promise and the subtle yet very present shame it induced is an anecdote about a piece of chewing gum. Okay, just roll with us, because I mean, we probably should have read it before we read it to y'all, but okay.
Chewing gum. Okay.
One day in Sunday school, when I was around 12, our pastor held up a piece of gum, brand new in this perfect foil wrapper. He spoke to all of us, but it was clear that his message was specifically directed at the girls. He pointed out how desirable the piece of gum was. Who would say no when offered a brand new piece of gum? No one, right? We all agreed, hoping he was actually going to hand out some gum. He unwrapped it, put it in his mouth, and spent a minute or so giving the piece of gum a good hearty chew. He then took the wet, chewed up gum out his mouth and held it up for all to see.
Who wants some?
Who wants this gum now? Nobody. It was chewed up, full of some other person's saliva, and that, he explains, is what happens to girls after they have sex.
Preach, preacher.
That was so wrong. I don't even know why you amen in that.
He was dead wrong. I was just saying. That's a good analogy, though.
That is not.
It is. It really makes you. It takes your mind to exactly what he was trying to get to. I'm not saying he was right. The analogy was a good one.
Those weren't the exact words. See how Melissa had that in there? See, because we thinking not his preacher dead wrong, and he didn't even really say that. That was partly Melissa. Okay, anyway. Those weren't the exact words, but they were for sure the subtext. We would be used, undesirable, and worthy of nothing but the trash can if we were to take our foil wrapper off and succumb to the pressures of sexual activity.
Keep them closed, ladies.
Don't help. Imagine how that presentation felt to anyone in the room who had already had a sexual experience. And remember, in the purity movement, it's not just sex that makes you impure, it's also sexual thoughts and feelings.
Oh yeah.
Since then, Kevin and I have met people who had unmarried sex before they found Christianity. When they heard this messaging in church for the first time, they experienced retroactive shame, as if they had been chewed up and spit
Spit
out.
out.
And even though I was a virgin who didn't allow for sexual thoughts, that image, that idea of the shame associated with sex followed me. For years, my salvation and my relationship with God were solely predicated on the idea of being pure. I held on to that so tightly. My faith in God and my link to godliness was possible only if I stayed a good girl, a virgin. Being pure was what allowed me to have a relationship with Christ. And that relationship could be taken away the moment I slipped up.
Uh-oh.
Again, these messages weren't just in my head, they were actively reinforced. My first lady once said a prayer over our youth group that if any of us were having sex, God would expose us, meaning through an STD or pregnancy. Dang!
First lady dead wrong for that.
You want to talk about a libido killer? Let me tell you, this prayer, more than any other warning, made me want to stay as far away from sex as
Golly.
possible. I value my relationship with Christ and my walk with Christ. Even as a teenager, I took it very seriously. While most of my friends were listening to secular music, I listened to gospel CDs. When I got my first car, I played Yolanda Adams' Mountain High, Valley Low album until I wore it out. I almost never turned on the radio. The thought of allowing myself to engage in simple, normal teenage activities, when I say simple, I mean things like having a crush on a boy, was scary for me. I didn't understand that these were just part of adolescence. I viewed them as simple, as attacks on my purity. It was my job to actively fight against my flesh to remain pure. While biblical sexual ethic for Christians is a noble and necessary goal, the core message of the purity movement is steeped in fear and shame that are disproportionately directed toward women. That shame made me fall victim to what I call the good girl mentality, which became a core part of my identity. I remember watching a movie as a child in which a young woman tells her mother that she wants the first person she kisses be the man she eventually marries. In my preteen mind, I decided this was a good strategy, a sign of what my life was to become. I was dead set on following that good girl plan. Little did I know that I was setting myself up for a rough road in undoing that identity.
Hmm.
I can understand that because I think even today, I mean, she's talking about when she was younger, but even today, I feel like that pressure is always on us. Ladies, keep your legs closed. Ladies, save yourself. You're a good girl if you do this, blah, blah, blah. But dudes high fiving and clowning and acting foolish. That's just not it. And we have two boys, right? So I feel like because I was the oldest girl in my house and I know the pressures that I had, I put those same pressures on them. Do they fall short? Absolutely. But do I still have a high standard and expectation for them to value themselves and to save what's sacred for marriage and for their wives? Yes, I would prefer that they did. Do I understand that there's temptation and desires and hormones and all of that goes with it? I definitely do. But I also know that if I would have known what I known then, what I know now, oh my goodness, it would have been a little bit easier.
Maybe.
Probably the reward, understanding the reward.
Oh yeah,
but people don't tell you about the reward. They don't tell you that married sex is the best sex. They don't tell you that all the things you can do and the experiences and how it feels and how great it is, how wonderful it is. It actually feels good, and you don't have any guilt that goes with it. Okay, nobody tells you that part. It's just absolutely not. No, absolutely. Don't even think about it. Kind of what Melissa was saying, and more, like I said, toward women than it is toward men.
This is true. So Kevin says Christian boys have got different messages about sex. While there was still plenty of shame, we were made to feel less bad about being sexually active. Out loud, parents discouraged their sons from having sex. But there was still plenty of attaboy unspoken approval. I heard a lot of men talking about all the womanizing they did before God delivered them and before they found a wife and got married. Sound like these girls is out here
wilding.
You know what I'm saying? Shoot.
You know it's really y'all though. Okay. Yes.
We couldn't do it without y'all though. The dialogue went something like this. Before I met First Lady and God put me here, I used to be out there. You understand me? Your man was out there. I had the suit. I had women. I was the man. The vibe was like a club of good old boys. And even the preachers were joining in. But you never heard women talking about their wild lives before they found God.
Mm.
Cause ain't no girls supposed to be out there doing that.
Well, guys shouldn't be out there doing it either. Because you shouldn't lead.
We not equal.
Start leading at an early age, okay?
We ain't the same. The rules were just different. Men were meant to pursue, to win women over, and get the draws. Okay, I added that part. Even if it sometimes went too far. Those messages of masculinity sat on the same level as, or even a little bit above, Christianity. That being said, I wish that anyone would have kept it real. We knew that sex was taboo and that even thinking about sex was a big no-no. But teenage boys could have used a little realistic guidance about what to do with all our sexual thoughts and feelings. Here are the only instructions I got about dealing with those thoughts. Pray.
Number 1.
Take a cold shower.
Number 2.
Pray again.
Go back to number 1.
Read the Bible.
Number 4.
That's terrible. That is terrible. Okay, so now I prayed, taken a cold shower, prayed again, and read the Bible. And what happened throughout that time? I was horny.
Help him, Lord. Help him, Lord.
I had a hard peen while taking the cold shower. Standing there, I realized, hey, this water kind of feels good. I'm already here. I might as well finish what I started. I got body wash right here. Let me just turn the water up a bit. I may have even slowed down a little.
Okay. Really?
You gonna let me finish?
No, we don't want him to finish. I don't want to know the finish. I don't want to know what's gonna.
You're gonna be walking around. He's just talking about washing.
Okay,
that's what he said. No matter how many times I repeated the instructions, the horniness didn't go away. The idea behind those instructions was this: the more time you spend with God, the less you think about sex. I don't know how true that is. I would like to say
because now you know you can have both. You can spend as much time with God as you want and as much sex as you like.
This is true.
And he's attaboying you.
But the promise didn't deliver as advertised. I wanted a refund.
Uh-oh.
We were also taught that masturbation was wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If you jack off, you're going to hell. But on the Love Hour, we've spoken to countless therapists and experts who teach you that not only is it not wrong, it's an important part of your sex life. Masturbation is a building block, especially for women. Now, we don't agree with the Fredericks in this aspect here. Primarily because it still takes you to a space where it doesn't include your spouse. So what is your mind taking you to? What are you dealing with internally to get to that point? Not giving it or passing any judgment on anyone else, but it's just our belief. We don't agree with that part of it. So
anyway. And I think and not for everybody, but I think that's a conversation you really need to have with your spouse too. Where is this coming from? Is this something that, what my desires are compared to your desires? let's talk about it. Because maybe you could help us out.
Absolutely. Because I feel like anything sexual that has to do with that area, that space should include your spouse in some way, somehow. So, anywho, let me see. The first time I heard anything about masturbation that was different from the message drilled into my head was when a pastor debunked scripturally the idea that masturbation is wrong. He said that for married people, people have to have a good, healthy relationship. Each person should be able to tell their partner what they like. It's like in a restaurant. When a server asks for your order, it's your responsibility to know what you truly want. Steak, shrimp, spicy food. When you get married, you need to know your preferences so you can tell your partner how to please you. That's a very different message from the one we were taught for 25 years.
I got married at 25.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
And that's a piece of it, because I think that is a place where there's a breakdown in communication many times, where people just don't talk about it. Why wouldn't, if something felt good, why wouldn't I say, oh yeah, girl, do that again? Now, I don't understand. Why is that taboo? It shouldn't be. It should be a safe space for you to communicate what feels good and what doesn't feel good in that area. What's the matter?
No, go ahead.
What doesn't feel good. It's one of those things where if you don't want it to grow to a point of resentment, right? Because I know many times there could be situations and where maybe I'll just put it out there. Women, it might take a little bit longer for them to get the pleasure that they desire, right? For us, it don't take that long, just shoot. Let's get rowdy, do what you got to do, and, wrap this thing up. But there has to be a balance in it. And in doing so, there needs to be the communication from between each other as to what feels good, what may not feel good, what gives more pleasure, what gives less pleasure, that kind of thing, so that you're equally involved in reaching the benefit that you both want, if you know what I mean.
And experiencing that together is what makes it great. That's when we're talking about being vulnerable with one another, being able to talk about it, explore it. I think we always say, money and sex, things get real tight real quick for whatever reason, things that are really important to your marriage. So being able to talk about those things are important. And I think if you can trust me enough to guide you and lead you to where I'm going or where I want to be, then that makes a difference in your sex life overall.
Absolutely. And what better person to tell you where to drive than the folks that are helping you out there. Let's see this. Okay. I haven't looked on.
He basically talks about just how boys had it easy, of course.
Well, I think that's a perspective, right? You can think of it that way, but yeah. I think we probably had our own.
Okay, the lectures.
Issues. Yeah, maybe the lectures. Yeah,
more lectures. Okay. For the girls, less for the boys.
When Melissa and I were newly married, some church friends of ours conceived. They weren't married, but everyone kind of knew they was bumping uglies. When the woman started showing, she was, quote, sat down. Now, for those of you that don't know what sat down means, in the Pentecostal church, the platform is for those that are, quote unquote, in a leadership or, positions of elevation where you might be a praise singer, you might be a minister, you might be in the choir, you might be do something, right? You hold some kind of a role, right? Mm-hmm. If you are, quote, sat down, that means you ain't doing nothing, at least not up there, or pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah, because you can't be an usher, you can't do any of that.
Because you have you kind of got the scarlet letter, so to speak, upon you. So during the time of your sitting down, you just, hopefully you'll pray through, ask God for forgiveness, and, not do what you just did. But I mean, you're going to have a whole baby there. I mean, what you going to do?
This is true. It's supposed to be a time of reflection.
So it's supposed to be a time of reflection. So if you get sat down, It's not good, right? When a woman started showing she was sat down from her duties in the church, she couldn't volunteer for any organizations, sing in the choir, stuff like that. See, the guy was the church drummer and also sang, but he wasn't sat down.
I just told you girls had it worse.
Well, she the one gonna have a big stomach, and that
But
might not
she
have been his
didn't.
baby.
You know what?
He faced no punishment
Exactly. Go ahead.
additional shame.
Mm-hmm.
In
None.
some ways, knowing that sort of shame wouldn't befall me, even if I did get caught, made me feel more likely to fool around. And fool around I did. I was careful though. And the reason I was careful was not because of any lessons I learned in church. When I was 13, my 16-year-old brother did not have the testicular fortitude to tell our parents that he had gotten a girl pregnant. So he had me deliver the news to my mom. Jason had a baby when he was 16?
Yes, the oldest girl.
God, that's why she was 29, whatever she was. I still remember the reaction on my mom's face. From that day on, I watched my brother's life get more difficult rather quickly. His opportunities became very limited. Watching his life change because of his baby was probably the thing that made me fully understand the seriousness of sex and the potential consequences of being sexually active. 16. Oh my Lord, I can imagine.
I think it's just it's difficult anyway because you don't know what you're doing and you gotta have your parents help and
Whew.
All right. So let's go back. Let's recap real quick.
Really?
Promise number 1. Well,
Yes.
you are significantly more desirable if you're a virgin. Did we pretty much say that wasn't true?
What do y'all think about that?
You are significantly more desirable if you're a virgin. You think that's the case?
I think, and it's just, taking it away, this is just regular, let's say, out in the marketplace. I think you'll probably find 6 one way, half a dozen the other when it comes to that. Not necessarily that a man is looking for a virgin, but you also don't want somebody that, been around the world, yeah. We don't want that, right? You don't.
And you
want
also
that.
don't want the I get around. I get around. We don't want that either.
Well, you know what?
Women don't want that either.
Well, I beg to differ.
You are not a woman.
Hold on. Hear me out. There's substantially more women on this earth than men.
Okay.
And in some cases, the guy that is the ladies' man, he continues to get ladies. Because it's something about a guy that can get ladies. Think about it. We got a whole show called The Bachelor, where 500 women tongue kiss and have sex with one dude while they decide on whether or not he's going to pick them and give them a rose in the end.
First of all,
that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life.
We do not know if they have sex on that show. So
he have sex with some of them.
Secondly, there is a show called Bachelorette as well.
Oh, she's just a hoe.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes. That's what it is. He's the ladies' man. And
I did not say he was. I just said that the man.
All I'm saying is I want someone with some respect for themselves and that can show some self-restraint.
Agreed.
I need that in my life too.
Okay,
because I don't want the one who has been around the world, and get around either.
I got 19 babies. Nick Cannon. Why are women still allowing him to impregnate them? Why?
I wish I had an answer for that.
We don't have one.
And these are beautiful young ladies. Oh my goodness, beautiful young ladies. I want to say that they're smart, but I don't know that. I just see their pictures. But this is, we can really jump into a whole nother conversation with that. But what are we looking for? Being able to set some standards. I know just glancing, most of you are married or wanting to get married. So set the standard and hold true to it. That's all I'm saying. Number two, the promise number two, you are guaranteed a healthy sex life after you say I do.
Mm.
So you want to unpack it before I read it or after I read it?
Well, I say that's fake news right there.
Absolutely.
That
I
is
would
fake
I would
news.
agree. And I know you're probably, you just said married sex with the best sex.
It is, but I also said that we have to communicate.
Okay.
In
Exactly.
the bedroom when it comes to that. Because you just go in there, think about it. You got two different people. One may have been a virgin like Melissa, right? One may have been around the world and yeah.
Like hell. No, I didn't say that. I didn't want to say that. I'm sorry.
And now you got this, or let's give a different example. Let's say maybe you ain't been around the world, but you were heavily into pornography, right? So with everything that you've seen has been straight fantasy,
fictional,
ridiculous,
not happening
stuff, right?
Right.
So now you come into, you have this young lady that's not as experienced in that area, and you trying to do to her what you saw these freaks on whatever you was watching do, but you never talk about it, right? So to you, it might feel like a rejection, but to her, it might feel like, man, my husband he a freak. You know, he want to be hanging from the this and the that, and he want to put it here and that, and you don't talk about it.
Now,
so you
course,
have to talk.
Absolutely, you have to talk. Now, we don't want to go down too far down
a
rabbit hole, but of course, if that's what she likes and that's what you like, go for it. But make sure what you want is what you want and not what some producer has created in this fake movie, and that you have now, made your own. That's what you want. That's what you want to do. That's what you think it is, and that's how you think it should be. That's not it at all, which is why porn ends up ruining a lot of marriages. So careful with that. Okay. Even though the words were never explicitly delivered, the lessons were constant, a little here, a little there, from parents and in church. What if I withheld from having sex just a little longer? My first time with my new spouse would move heaven and earth, and subsequently, my sex life with my spouse would always be healthy and satisfying. It's similar to the messages of masculinity Kevin absorbed over the years. Even though no one spelled it out explicitly, these were the truths we just knew from growing up churchy. My world was framed by these truths. The fallout of this promise piggybacks on the first one about desirability and shame. If purity equals salvation, then the opposite is also true. Non purity means damnation. And the shame switch doesn't just flip as soon as you get married. I carried that negativity with me. Here I was, married, in a situation where I should be free. But in all scenarios relating to sex, talking about it, getting ready for it, I felt shame. It felt wrong. I still suffer from the good girl syndrome. By this point, it was no longer about the messaging. I suffered from all that I had internalized. Purity had become my key character trait. I remember sitting in church next to my first boyfriend, the one I dated right before Kevin. The Teen Bible had pages with vibrant colors specifically designed to grab your attention. There was a sex page, a porn page, a drug page, all the dangers they wanted us to understand. This boyfriend opened to the sex page and pointed to the graphic, and then pointed to the two of us. It was his far from subtle way of telling me we should have sex. I thought, you mean to tell me we are in church? A man is preaching in front of us about the dangers of heavy petting and how fiery hot the lake of fire is, and this boy grabs my Bible and tells me we should have sex?
Boy, cold blooded.
This ain't never gonna work. Never, ever.
Did she say never ever?
She sure did. That was the end of that relationship. I didn't date again until Kevin. I could not be tempted. We concentrated so much on abstinence and the weight, but we were never taught what to do after that. No one taught you how to have a beautiful sex life with your partner. As a newlywed, I felt betrayed, bamboozled, tricked. I did everything right and still struggled to accept my sexuality. I had to come to my own process of educating myself about my body, about sex, the way God intended it, and the beauty of two lives coming together. I now see my upbringing as a kind of brainwashing. Even when you're confronted with the truth, you still feel compelled to hold on to the lie. After 18 plus years as a married woman, my good girl syndrome still sticks to me like glue. I still feel compelled to do everything right, to cross every T and dot every I. I fight actively to keep this kind of thinking from bleeding into my sex life. Shame is difficult to overcome. As Donna Coltrane Battle, now a spiritual practitioner and a Duke Divinity School professor, said at the 2018 Courage Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, we can overcome trauma. It is shame that is so
Yes.
incredibly difficult to overcome. Shame goes directly to the heart of where we feel worth and value, and it tears it, it rips it apart.
So let me say something about that real quickly. Um, shame is real, right? It is shame. Um, but even if you do something, outside of what God has you to do, regarding sex or regarding, anything, right? Um, there should be no condemnation in what you do. Condemnation comes from the enemy. And he gets you in a position to where you feel worthless. You feel like you're at a point of no return. Um, Almost like you're helpless. There's nothing you can do,
Mm-hmm.
and that couldn't be any further from the truth at all.
From what God has in store for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, conviction is different, because conviction, you feel sorry for what you did.
And it's a little.
It's like, man, I shouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
Man, and I was out of line.
And you have an
You
opportunity to fix it.
exactly. The Lord will welcome you back. And then now that doesn't give us a free pass to just go out and do whatever we want to do. But when if you have a true relationship with God, whenever you're doing what you're doing, it should sting a little bit. You should feel guilty. And that guilty feeling is your conviction, letting you ain't got no business doing this.
You're out of line.
You ain't got no business doing this. You need to chill.
And again, not to go into a rabbit hole, because I guess we could do that a lot on this chapter too, is to get your attention.
Right.
Now, like anything, if you keep shrugging it off, ignore it,
yep.
Eventually it won't be as loud.
It
won't be as strong.
Yep.
And eventually it'll go away. And it'll give you way to your own thoughts, and you'll find yourself in a world of hurt.
Absolutely.
So listening to that small voice, paying attention to that little nudge, and making some adjustments, especially because you need to make the adjustments.
Right.
If you get a nudge, you know what to do. Giving way to that.
Yeah.
In all things, how you talk to your spouse, how you handle your spouse. Oh, baby, that's you.
We all need to be freer to talk about sex. Just what we've been talking about all night. And these conversations about sex need to happen on a regular basis. The problem is we have made sex just plain awkward to talk about. The only conversation I had with my parents about the birds and the bees happened when I was 19 years old and returned home from college for the weekend. It went something like this. Boy, are you a virgin? No. You nasty. In the conversation. But
awkward.
But it doesn't have to be that way. And it shouldn't be. Parents and other people in authority think that by avoiding the conversation, kids aren't going to do it. But avoiding the conversation just teaches us to be embarrassed and uncomfortable around the subject of sex. The conversation about sex isn't awkward only with parents or teachers or pastors. It can even be uncomfortable and embarrassing with your own spouse, the person with whom you are having or wanting to have all the sex.
Mm-hmm.
Confession. Earlier in our marriage, I used to think that every time the sun went down, it meant I'd be having sex. I'm not joking. Shortly after our honeymoon, I said to Melissa, "It's dark outside."
That baby say it's dark outside.
Let's get to it. With them cheeks.
Now it didn't say all that.
We have 4 years of celibacy to catch up on. Dang, 4 years they dated? They said, cool. Kudos to her for not making me feel dumb or bad about it. But she did say, yes, it is dark. Are you expecting sex just because the sun has gone down? I thought, I guess I can't say yes when she puts it that way. Maybe it's ridiculous to expect sex because it's dark. But I still wanted to shout, yes! I didn't know what to say or not to say. I felt awkward with my own wife. Another thing I did was expect sex just because we hadn't had it in a while. If it had been 3 or 4 days, I knew my chances improved with each passing day. I now know that I increase my chances of sex by making sure my wife and I are closely connected.
What? You say connected?
Connected.
If you don't follow Elevate Marriages and you don't know that we talk about this, that the setup is real and that you start setting up for that.
It's a phrase for it.
Come on, what is it, babe?
Before play.
Before play. Don't steal that. That's ours. I'm saying it right now, right here. But needless to say, that before play happens when you wake up in the morning and fix my cup of coffee. Put
all day.
Toothpaste on my toothbrush.
Yes.
Rub against my booty on your way out the bathroom.
Oh, come on now.
It starts right there.
You want to finish this video?
You know what?
Oh, make one. Oh, anywho.
Don't pay me no money.
Another thing I did was I said that. Okay. I now know that increasing my chances of having sex for making sure my wife and I are closely connected.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean cooking dinner for her on and only on the nights I want, but it means doing the things that fill our love tanks, spending time with each other, not just burning some burgers and saying, "Are you ready now?"
My goodness.
The promise of purity culture, that just because you're married, your sex life is going to automatically work, is an empty one. You have to talk about it, even though talking about sex is hard. The good news is, the more you talk about sex, the easier it gets. Make it normal. Uh-oh. You switch me? Oh, shoot. What the heck? Oh, we still on.
Okay, so you guys can hear us, but you can't see us. Is that right? Let me know in the chat if you can still hear me.
You gotta say something.
No, I did say. I just said a whole lot. Okay, I can see us now, but I don't know if they can hear us.
I'll give it a second.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yes. I can hear.
Okay. That comes up.
Okay. James is messing with the camera, obviously. That's it, guys. That's the ticket. Being able to talk about it. And if you feel like you really can't talk about it, you can't get out what it is you want to say, be creative with it. Maybe you put all the things you want to say on a piece of paper, put it in a hat, and we pull those out and then we talk about it. Or if you find a certain article or something that you really want to talk about or you want your spouse to know, maybe you email that to them or send them a text message or something with that information on it. Those type of things. Just something that will open up, no honey, that's something that will open up the communication about sex, because that's how it gets better. And it starts well before you take off all your clothes or even some of your clothes. Okay. It starts, the before play starts well before you take off your clothes.
There we go.
So that's really what we're trying to say. Make sure you're communicating about it. Make sure you're wanting to explore each other more, understand each other more, what you like, what you don't like. That's what it's about, communicating, and that's how you can increase the pleasure in your sex. You have 5 minutes, so questions, comments, concerns.
Yes, let's have those. If there are any comments, any concerns about anything that we said, actually. Let's see if we miss anything.
Any questions we put out there? No?
There weren't a lot of questions tonight. Some comments, but not a lot of questions. Ooh, Flavor Flav. I think he got like 11 kids too.
He does. He does. With
Prime
lots
example.
of different women.
Lots of different women. There you go. Yep, there you go. I mean, I think it's the only like woman like famous that I know. I guess she famous. That got a bunch of kids. That one that's married to the that do all the singing. She got the little. She be on the stage twerking.
I forgot her name. Avant. She sings with Avant. Who knows who that is?
The girl. It's a girl.
I know, but
you know what I'm talking.
She has lots of duets.
She do all the
with
screaming. Screaming. Kiki
Wyatt.
something. Yeah, there you go.
Kiki Wyatt. She does.
Yeah. She got a bunch of kids. But...
I mean, it's fine to have a bunch of kids if you're taking care of them. I'm cool.
I think the point I was just saying is that you were saying that women don't want somebody that's kind of been around. I was just disagreeing. It seems like those guys have children with multiple women, and they don't get. I don't know what the attraction is. We got a whole movie called Ladies Man with Leon Filth. Hey, ladies, I'm the ladies man. Remember Leon?
No, I don't.
You don't remember? He was a gigolo. Anywho.
Oh goodness. Anyway, we appreciate so much you guys joining us.
Absolutely.
Listening to us read this book. Kevin and Melissa are great, and we are so proud of them and what they're doing. Just proud of their book, which is a New York Times bestseller. So we're just really proud of them, and we appreciate some of the ideas and conversations that the book has brought up with our marriage, and hopefully with yours too.
Yes.
Gotta keep talking. Gotta keep understanding each other and digging a little deeper. Don't settle for those little surface answers, and just really find time to talk. And don't start talking when the heat is on. You just had a big argument and now you want to dig all deep and find out this and that. No.
And when we say talk, that's what we mean, talk. Not yelling, not screaming, not cussing, calling each other out of your name. Talk.
Yeah.
And then listen.
Yes.
And
then listen some more.
Try to listen more than you talk.
Oh, that's the truth.
Because then you can probably get to the bottom of some answers that you really need. A lot of times people they don't really listen for understanding. You're listening to respond. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you miss a whole lot. So make sure you're talking. We went through that Communication Be Hard chapter, and we talked about communication and holding things back and not talking. But just make sure you do that. It's key. It is key.
And being clear with your expectations on any of these things. I think it goes across all of the chapters we've read so far, really expressing what your expectations are. The analogy, I guess, he gave about the restaurant. The waiter doesn't know what you want. They can suggest something, right, but you know what you want to eat.
Say it.
So you have to be able to say it. And don't be mad if I don't know what that is. So, and that goes for sex, that goes for cooking and marriage roles and how we take care of the kids, all of that. What is it, babe? The biggest cause for divorce is not sex, it's not finances, it is
unmet expectations. Because you don't talk about it.
Right.
You just expect somebody to know. And if you don't tell me, how the heck am I supposed to know?
True that.
Let's keep working at it. Keep loving each other, keep connecting, and keep tuning in. We appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. We're going to be here next Thursday as well.
Yes.
Same time, 8 o'clock. to continue to read. We may continue Sex Be Hard. We might skip to another chapter. The key is really just kind of going through this thing and sharing what we feel like is good meat for those of you that are married and or looking to be married.
Right.
All right. Till next time, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. I'm James Lee.
I'm Tasha Lee.
We'll talk to you soon.